We have a surprising New York Knicks trade update as Knicks insider James Edwards has highlighted Alec Burks as a guy to potentially trade for a New York Knicks bench that is in desperate need of some help, which will probably have to come in some form of a trade. And this trade does involve the Knicks moving on from Jericho Sims as well, who's been a common trade target from other teams, someone who the New York Knicks have definitely been looking to trade and is on the trade block, and we're going to break it all down. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Knicks Digest. It's Chris here. If you guys like the content, make sure to subscribe. 28% of viewers are subscribed. Let's get those numbers up, but also let's jump into this because Knicks insider James Edwards proposed this trade where the New York Knicks would be giving up, or the New York Knicks would be retrieving Alec Burks in exchange for Jericho Sims and a second-round pick. I actually threw another second-round pick in there just because it's very heavily protected, and the Miami Heat need some sort of second-round pick trade assets, so I figured just to throw them two, it'd be a deal that would definitely be able to get done, and this would be a deal in my mind that helps out the Knicks a lot. Now, shout out to James Edwards for bringing this up, and just to look at what he said on this, he said Burks comes back to New York and tries to provide more shot creation and guard depth. Sims has been in and out of Thibodeau's rotation, mostly out, and isn't necessarily needed with Precious Achiuwa, Ariel Huckporty, and Mitchell Robinson in the building. Alec Burks and Sims have some identical salaries, so this isn't a real needle-moving trade by any means, but it changes the structure of the Knicks roster and brings back someone who is familiar with the organization. And on top of that, if New York sweetens the pick with a second-round pick or two second-round picks, with one of them being protected, the Heat only have two second-round picks at their disposal between 2026 and 2031. So it gives the Heat a real reason to accept this trade. Now, obviously, the Miami Heat, it feels like they're about to go through a rebuild, and that to me is not surprising. The Heat were not in a good spot for a while now. It felt like they were holding on because they had that miracle NBA Finals run as an 8th seed where they really just figured it all out. They beat the Knicks on the way there, as we remember. The Knicks gave them some problems, and then I think that's when we all realized how close the Knicks actually were to being a true contender. And, well, having Alec Burks would just help this Knicks team a lot. You look at the Knicks bench, it's not good enough right now. Cameron Payne has been very solid off the bench. Deuce McBride has been solid. Landry Shamet is still kind of returning to form. And then Precious Achiuwa is an undersized big man, but he's had a lot of good moments with the Knicks this season. The bench isn't terrible. It's not a terrible NBA bench, but it's really not very good for a contender. There are other teams that have this issue, specifically the Denver Nuggets are dealing with the same problem, where they like their starting five. Mind you, the Knicks starting five is better than Denver's. And no real bench assets. The Knicks have something to work with on their bench. It's not a lot, and it's very guard heavy. Now, Alec Burks is more of a guard than anything else, but he's a true wing. He's 6'5". Like, he plays in more of a guard style, especially with Tom Thibodeau, who likes to have Burks dominate the ball because of Burks' ability to create for himself. However, Burks to me is more of a wing, and with Deuce McBride and Cameron Payne, we would get to see Alec Burks play as more of a wing. Now, just taking a look at Burks' numbers, this season, he's putting up 6 points per game, 2 rebounds, shooting 40% from the field and 43% from three, 39% on corner threes. Almost all of the shots that he's taking are three-point shots. He's truly an elite spot-up guy who any team would be happy to have. It's why every fan base that's had Alec Burks has loved him. Knicks fans absolutely like having Alec Burks, and we know for a fact the guy can perform in the playoffs. It's a huge part of Alec Burks is that we know he's going to be able to perform in the playoffs. Mind you, Jericho Sims probably won't be on the Knicks for the playoffs, or if he's on the team still, he would be at the end of the bench, or at least on the bench where he wouldn't be getting real minutes, assuming Mitchell Robinson is healthy in the playoffs, which is, not a guarantee, but assuming Mitchell Robinson is healthy in the playoffs, the two Knicks big men that will be primarily playing are Karl-Anthony Towns and Mitchell Robinson. If Precious Achiuwa is on the team, I wouldn't be shocked if we also saw Achiuwa at some points, but it would mainly be Towns and Robinson, and then Achiuwa would be third, leaving Jericho Sims completely out of the way for the Knicks. So you might as well try to trade him for someone who you could play in the playoffs, and for you, it's a guy that it will work out. I mean, he had one of his best Knicks games last season in the playoffs against the Indiana Pacers. He scored at will, putting up 26 points off the Knicks bench. He did everything that you want out of Alec Burks. I mean, when he gets to the Knicks, it just feels like he's confident in himself. And I know he does the same thing everywhere, but seeing him on the Knicks 2 different times, both times, it didn't feel like it ever left. It didn't feel like we ever lost Alec Burks, the way he came back. He was the same player once again, doing the same moves, hitting the same off-the-dribble shots, being crafty, driving to the lane, hitting every catch-and-shoot 3 that he gets. Alec Burks is just a guy. Also, he can create the shot well, is very clutch. He's just a guy who would be very, very helpful for this Knicks team. Having a great shooter like that is always beneficial for a team, and we've seen that with Alec Burks. He gives you more consistency than Landry Shamet, and you get Burks on the team, it gives you someone who you could really bench Josh Hart, Mikal Bridges, and OG Anunoby for, because he can play that small forward role. He can play that wing role, and we're seeing the main reason why we're seeing the Knicks get overplayed more than anything is the fact that Hart, Bridges, and Anunoby get overplayed because there isn't really anyone to back them up that Tom Thibodeau is comfortable with. He's not going to play Pacome Dadier, who's been in the G League for a very long time now. He's not going to play Matt Ryan because Matt Ryan wasn't able to hit his threes consistently enough in the chances he got, so now Tibbs doesn't trust him. We know Tom Thibodeau trusts Alec Burks, and we know that Tibbs uses Burks as a guard more, but if he has a bench with Payne, McBride, and Alec Burks, then we'd probably see him use all of them on top of Achua. It forces Tibbs' hand to have a 9-man rotation, and we want that for the New York Knicks down the stretch. And then in the playoffs, yeah, you could play Brunson 40 minutes. You could play Josh Hart 43, 44 minutes. You can play Mikal Bridges 40 minutes. You can play OG Anunoby 38 minutes. You can do that in the playoffs. You can play Karl Anthony Towns 37, 38 minutes as well. That's fine. I don't really care if the Knicks play their guys that much in the playoffs because that's when they're supposed to win. However, in the regular season, Tibbs does not want to drop a single game, and that means playing his starters really heavily. Alec Burks can take over for Josh Hart or Mikal Bridges. I mean, specifically Mikal on an offensive end, moving off the ball, getting ready in the corner to take a very quick 3. Stuff like that, we know that Alec Burks fits in perfectly, so it would be a good move, at least in my opinion, to give Mikal Bridges a break. The man's playing over 39 minutes per game. He needs to rest more, or I just fear he's going to get hurt. I feel this way about OG, who's, had his fair share of injuries. I feel this way about Josh Hart. I feel about all of them just because they're playing so many minutes. It feels like getting a guy like Burks would help. Now, I still would want the Knicks to do something else at the deadline. As James Edwards mentioned, it's not an end-all, be-all move, but it's a very possible move, and one of the reasons is because we know Jimmy Butler's leaving the Heat. Taking a look at what Shams said a few days ago, Miami Heat star Jimmy Butler reiterated to team president Pat Riley in a face-to-face meeting last week that he wants to be traded. Butler told Riley that he will not sign a new deal in Miami and that he intends to use his $52 million player option for 2025-2026 in the offseason only as a trade maneuver. So Butler's making the Heat trade him. The Heat do not have a good vibe around them right now, and this is a good chance for the New York Knicks to come in and strike. It just makes all the sense in the world for the Knicks to go and do this right now. To me, it adds up. To me, this is a move the Knicks would be able to make. And I know there's at least 1 or 2 people saying that the New York Knicks, well, they're not going to make a deal with the Miami Heat. They won't do it to get Alec Burks. Yes, they will. I'm sorry, but we saw Leon trade with a team that, in the Raptors, that there was a lawsuit between the Knicks and the Raptors, and that trade got done. Everyone said the Knicks and the Nets wouldn't make a trade. What happened? They made the Mikal Bridges trade. You can't underestimate NBA teams and trying to get something that helps each of their team. They will make deals with each other. Yes, the one trade in Knicks Heat history is the Knicks trading Pat Riley to the Miami Heat. However, if the Knicks see this as a means to help them contend this season, they'll go and do it. They won't need Jericho Sims in the playoffs. I'm not going to say they need Alec Burks, but it would be helpful if they had him. He's just a trustworthy guy to put out there. So you just have to trust that Leon Rose would be willing to make this move. I would bet that he would be. I would bet it's a good trade for each side. I mean, Miami gets to take a chance with Jericho Sims. Meanwhile, Alec Burks is just going to walk and go somewhere else that's a contender the following year. So does it really make sense just to keep him around so we could walk as the Miami Heat go into a bit of a rebuild stage? No, that doesn't make sense to me. I truly believe the Heat will trade Alec Burks this season just because it's a way to snag second-round picks. The Heat only have 2 of them, so they might as well find a way to get some more and use them in trades, just no matter what those trades are, just to get some trade assets in exchange for Alec Burks before you just let him walk in free agency. It makes no sense to me. I think the Heat are too smart to know that. I do expect the Heat to trade Alec Burks, and I hope the New York Knicks at least take a chance to try to get him. It's a good use of that $2 million contract of Jericho Sims, because your other option is you trade him for a second-round pick, and then you use that $2 million in free agency. I don't think there's a free agent better than Alec Burks right now. Yes, TJ Warren's an option. TJ Warren can still become an option even if the Knicks do that. There are ways around it, so you just wait till March. There's like a change in the contracts. The Knicks can get Warren then. They then have multiple backups for both OG Anunoby, or for all 3 of OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, and Josh Hart, given sometimes guards sub in for Josh Hart because they can. But guys, I do want to know what you guys think about this. Do you want Alec Burks part 3? I definitely do. I trust him in the playoffs, and that's more than I could say about all the Knicks bench, so absolutely. Sign me up. Guys, like, subscribe, turn on post notifications. Have a great day, and go Knicks.